Hello, hello, welcome back. Here we are again, where we ended yesterday, and we'll be doing a short hop today, about 90 miles, but this will probably take a while, including the preparations. So, play it for you live on the intro, on the bass, let me put it down, and we'll start right up. Okay, here we are. So, let me show you what the flight is today. And I'll start some background music. There we go. So we are going from Echo Papa Whiskey Romeo to Echo Papa Lima Kilo. This, according to Navigraph, is 90 miles, but I bet this will take a moment, including all the preparations. So this again is a flight sponsored by Honor. I took a mission here, and I loaded the cargo and passengers already. And I think we can see if I have nothing in the aircraft. Great, so let's start with fixing this. So I'll hop in the aircraft. I already loaded pretty much everyone I can, so we need a bit more fuel, I suppose, to make that work. No, the actual doesn't like it. So maybe we'll be able to set more in the sim. Let's try this out and see how that works. Oh, so actually, no, we need to make the passengers heavier, and then it should play right. So let's see what we can do. How much we are missing? Not much, around 75 pounds, which is like 30-40 kilo. So I think I can make it work here. Let me see. Okay, so we probably just need to set everything here, and maybe that will work. So I'm just trying to put some random numbers, so this matches with what Honor wants, and we are almost there. We are just a bit to the aft on the limit, so we need to remove something from the back and move it to the front. So we have baggage front here. So we can probably do it like that. Let's see how that works. Okay, so we're at the aft limit. This should be fine. And I'm not sure how the tablet will like it, but it's probably will be fine. So we're on the aft limit. This is fine. Let's see our weights. Everything is okay. So we are good to go here. Let's have a quick look at the fuel. So we have 50%. That is great. All right. Now the owner is happy with everything here. So we have all the green check marks. And I can click start tracking here. And we'll be able to do our preparations. So now that I know everything is fine here, we will also be tracking this in the A car. So this got sent to my VA commander. I already filled in everything. So origin is Echo Papa Whiskey Romeo. We go to Echo Papa Whiskey Kilo. And as alternate, I put our takeoff airport because the weather here should be fine. And we'll cruise at 7,000 feet. I'll show you why in a moment. We have 3 passengers and 250 kilo of cargo, which is from the owner, not what we loaded in the sim. So I'll start the flight here. This is good to go, and I'll show you what's going on in the Navi graph. So we're taking off from Echo Papa Whiskey Romeo, doing a departure, which I took already. That's Lunuk 1 kilo departure. Then we do just one short hop on the airway, but not actually on the airway, to Okenko, and then direct to Echo Papa Lima Kilo, and we'll do approach there. Now the thing about the airway is that the airway is actually higher, so we cannot use it. So it's flight level 110. That's why in the route I filled in direct, not the route. Actually, there's the route here, but I wanted to change it here to direct. So never mind. I was supposed to do it, but forgot to do it. So this is our route now. And we can jump in the scene and start preparing. So I think I can hide the tablet. We won't need it anymore. As you can see, it's pretty dark outside. We are basically winter time, so it gets dark pretty early here in Europe. And the weather is not great, but definitely better than last time when we landed here on Sunday. So let's have a look. I wonder if my dimmers will work. No. So we need to actually use our headlight here so that we can start the aircraft. But first we need to remove all the covers that we won't need during the flight. This should be much better now. So I do not see the gas lock here, which is great. And I can start the battery, so we'll be able to see actually anything in the sim. Great. I can now turn off my headlamp because we can see what's going on inside. I will make our red light a bit brighter so we can see the full cockpit. Great. And we can start the preparation. Okay. What do we start with today? Let's see how that battery is doing, and then I'll decide if we need to start the engines now, or yeah, maybe let's start the engines first and then we'll do the avionics. This will give us some time for the engines to warm up, and because it's pretty cold today, we might need quite a lot of time. And also, you remember last time I had trouble starting the engines, and I actually checked the manual, and the fuel system in this aircraft is quite different than in most GA aircraft. So now I know what to do so that it can start, and I will also let you know so that you can follow that. So let's see. The parking brake is set. I will, as usual, be stepping on the toes and starting the engines to make sure the plane doesn't jump forward. We'll select our nav light on and anti-collision light on because we'll be starting the engine right about now. Now, the next thing we need to check, let's check our fuel selectors. So that's the easiest way to get there for me. I will use the headlamp so that you can see. And the right is on the right. Left is on the left. We'll use that for the startup and takeoff. Then we'll switch to the auxiliaries, so we use some of them in flight. And for landing, we'll again switch to the main tanks. Okay, so I'll move both mixtures forward. I'll move the throttles 1 inch forward for startup, and props are forward. That's great. We'll start from the right engine, so I will switch on the magnetos. And here comes the thing that I have been doing wrong the last time. So it's interesting in this aircraft, the priming is automatic. So what we need to do is just move it to the right when we are starting the right engine, and that's it. And then we press the start button until it starts. It should start within 30 seconds in the cold weather like today. So hopefully that will be the case. And then I'll tell you about the fuel pumps, because that works slightly different than in most aircraft that I have flown. So I'll explain that in a moment. So fuel sector is on, mixture is forward, throttle is cranked, and I'm stepping on toes, and we should be able to start the right engine. So let's see what happens. You can see the emergency instrument here, and you should also be able to hear the engine sound when it starts. So I'll be pressing and keeping press the start button until I hear the engine running. Okay, that was quick today. Now what we do is we reduce the power to have 1000 RPM. We'll turn on the right alternator and auxiliary fuel pump to low. Now, what they say is that this fuel-injected aircraft, and the fuel is injected into the cylinders by the engine pumps. However, we have auxiliary pump, and we basically only use it in low. High is only for the emergency situations. So low should get rid of any vapor locks after startup and during takeoff and landing. Otherwise, we keep it at off, and we'll keep it at high only when there is a failure of the engine fuel pumps actually. We do not need it at any other situation. And the funny thing about it is that it will have excess fuel coming into the engine, and it's being collected and returned to the main tank. So, for example, when the engine is being fed with auxiliary tank, it will be returned to the main tank. So that's quite interesting. Another thing that I found out is that the gauge here, which is labeled as fuel flow, this is actually pressure meter, and it says the minimum maximum pressure here. And what it does, based on the pressure, it's telling us what's the fuel flow. And that is the reason why when we change anything about the fuel pumps, we'll also see it here. Although the flow doesn't change as such, the pressure changes. But there's also this excess fuel flowing to the engine that is being collected there, so there might be some more to it. Cool, so let's start up the left engine, and then we'll be able to set up our avionics. So left engine magnet is on, priming to left. Also this priming jumps to the middle as soon as the engine starts. So I'll watch it now and see it actually jumps when the engine is running. Okay, engine is running, left alternator, left fuel pump to low, and reduce the power to 1000 RPM. Great, so we can start our avionics and set up the whole flight, which will probably take me a moment. Okay, we'll change the code so we have a new one. Let's use 2255 for transponder, and let's wait a moment until the Garmin start up, and then I'll enter the whole route, because the flight today is quite short, so I don't want to fiddle with it during the flight. But normally you are not quite sure what approach you'll get, so it makes sense to enter this during the flight, or you might change it during the flight anyway. Okay, let's wait until it catches up with the GPS, because to jump out of whatever I'm doing at the moment. So I'd rather have it already caught up with the GPS. And there we go, the integrity warning disappeared and we are good. It's showing the correct position, so we can go to the flight plan and I can enter our routes. So I learned that there is keyboard mode, which is basically cheating. You have to use the knobs in the aircraft, but here we can click this keyboard and now it will let me enter from the keyboard. As soon as I have it, I need to unclick it so I can press any other buttons. Okay, let me check. So then we go to Lunuk. That definitely feels like cheating when I'm not turning the knobs, but just insert the key from the keyboard. And I need to unclick it. That's actually the first time I'm using it. Next we go to Okeno. Okay. And then Echo Papa Lima Kilo. So there is again this quirk that it will, at the airport, then I set in the procedure and it doesn't remove the airport, so I need to do it manually. There we go. So that's our flight plan, the basic one. We now need the departure procedure and approach procedure. So let's set that in. We select departure first. And we use Lunuk 1 kilo. Now we can notice here that it doesn't have the full name of the point because there's a character limit for the whole departure. So they had to cut one character out of the point's name. Run 829er, and we have a preview here of the procedure before we load it, so that looks okay. And this is filled in correctly, so let's scroll through this. Lunuk, then we have en route again, Lunuk. I think now we don't need it because it's basically duplicate, so I will clear it. We'll see what happens. Yeah, that looks good. And now let's fill in the approach. So let me have a look what chart I have. So I'm looking here on Navigraph and I'm checking what charts we have for Echo Papa Lima Kilo for approach. Okay, we have ILS Zulu and ILS Yankee. Let's have a look. Interesting. Okay, I don't want to navigate to this point, so I will go with the ILS Zulu, so we can just navigate to the VR here. So we go with ILS Zulu. Great. So let's go back in the sim, ILS Zulu. We will probably use vectors, but this differs from what's on the chart. So we might actually do something different here, but let me just enter this procedure and we'll simply ignore it later, probably. Okay, now let's have a look what's inside. And we have... Oh, now it removed the Echo Papa Lima Kilo from here, the airport. So I think from the point we'll just navigate to the VR and do the whole approach manually and see how that goes. Alright, so that went quicker than the last time. There's also option to set the VNAV, and I learned that the VNAV we can also find here, yes, in the last box on the nav pages. So the outer knob lets me control the group of pages, so we have nav, waypoint, auxiliary, nearest, and then the inner knob controls which page you're on within the group of pages. So here the last one is the VNAV, and we'll probably just go to our last point and descend from there. We are planning to go to flight level 70, so that shouldn't be a problem. I'll set it here already. Actually, we need to go to 90. Okay, worst case you can descend in the holding, so that shouldn't be a problem. So the route is set. I like to have the flight plan on the lower display, so I see what's coming up next, and our navigation display here. Let's check the engines if the temperatures are okay. So everything is in the green here. and we are good to taxi. So, fuel pumps off. I probably shouldn't have kept it that long. We'll just need them again for takeoff. And tax light for taxiing. I'll switch on our pitot heat and windshield de-ice. I'm not sure if there is any time limit for them. And we can start taxiing. So for that I need to lock my seat, so give me a moment and I will be right back. Okay, my seat is locked. This means I will not slide back when taxiing and using the rudder pedals, so I'm ready to taxi. Parking brake is released. I will apply some power so we start rolling. Now only add power on the right engine. Left rudder, some left brake, and we manage to turn here within the limits. We'll be taking off from runway 29er, so let's have a look at our taxi route first, so that you know where we are going. Okay. We conveniently have it here already. I can show our aircraft to see what's going on and where we are. That should make it a bit easier. So we're here at Generation Terminal and we'll just taxi straight via Alpha to holding point runway 29 and we'll do our run up in the holding point area. Okay, let's go. Now we can't see very much here and the lighting is not very even, so the lights that we see in front of us is the de-icing path, which is left of our taxiway, and we have the markings which are very clear here, so we are on Alpha 2 and we'll need to taxi straight ahead. And we can already see the holding point in the distance with the red labels. Okay, we'll need to stop here and do our run-off check. We do not actually see the line, but let's see. Here it is. So we stopped right before it. Parking brake is set. I will set our RPM to 1800 and we'll do the run-off check. So we check the magnetos, both lefts off. We see a drop below 100. We go back to both, make sure the RPM is back, now turn off right magnetos, we see a similar drop, no difference here. That's great, let's go back up and we'll check the prop. So we'll move the prop levers back a bit and see if they are working. So 1, we see the drop, 2 and 3. While doing that I'm making sure to not go below 1500. That is done, and we can set up everything for our departure. I forgot to set up the QNH, so I used the B shortcut, and here it is. We have our altimeter set. Let me set the heading back, which is already set because we had it from the yesterday. This aircraft is saving states before flight, and we have actually everything dialed in like we left it before, and because we landed on the same runway, it's conveniently where it should be already, which is very nice. Okay, so Before takeoff, items. Fuel quantity is okay. Let's have a look at the fuel selectors to make sure they're where we want them to be. We have both tanks on the main tanks, which is great. Fuel pumps too low. Now, engine. Mixture is forward, props are forward, nothing more to check here. And flaps to first notch. There we go. Transponder alt and the lights. So taxi light off, landing lights. They will need to go out and extend and start shining, so we'll see them in a moment. There we go. And strobe light. And we're ready to go. Make the music a bit louder. Okay, so parking brake released and we will taxi onto the runway. Hopefully we can see the numbers on the runway, but let's see how that works. So there is the threshold and the numbers should be on the right. There we go, 29er. That's okay. Now we need to check our headings. Let's have a look at the magnetic compass. This is showing 29er, which is okay, and our heading back at 29er. Great, so we're ready. Let's depart. Throttle forward. Actually, stop here and we need to do one more thing. We need to set our trim, because it is where we left it yesterday. So here's the trim indicator. It should be in the white area. I saw the nose going up here, so that's what reminded me. Now we're in the middle of the white area. We are a bit heavy on the back, so let's have it somewhere here. That should do the job. And now we can properly take off. Throttle is forward. Engine instruments are in the green. Airspeed is alive. We'll start pulling back on the yoke to release the pressure on the nose gear. I see it's lifting off now. And let's rotate. Accelerate. We want to accelerate around the blue line and we can start climbing. Positive climb. Gear up. Need to keep on the heading back here. Keep the vertical speed under control. We are 200 feet in the air, so I reduce the power to the green area. Laps up, make sure we do not sink. Fuel pumps off and landing lights off. Great, so we can continue our climb. We need to follow our departure, which is conveniently set here. And let's make sure that we are getting the readings from the GPS. Hey Jesus, very nice to hear, to see you. We just departed right into the dark. And here we go. Quick reminder that you can use blur and sound alerts. Let's see if that works. And actually, I forgot one thing at the beginning of the streams. We had one follow, so let me replay it. Ristan, very thank you for the follow. Very nice to see you here. So. I'll slide this manually for a bit and then we'll maybe start with the autopilot. Or let's try the autopilot now. So I'll engage it. Let's see what happens. Let's keep it at 1500. Well, no, it doesn't want to do what I want it to do. And let it keep the heading. Okay, I think we can go to nav and it should follow our GPS. So I can relax a bit Last time I have been flying the whole route manually, and that wasn't a great idea because I didn't have the mental capacity to do everything else. Jesus, how was your day? How was your flying? Let's have a look outside here and see how this is looking. It should be a moonlit light, but the moon will be above the clouds, but we can actually see it here. It's just, there's nothing much to light up. And one thing to note here is that the GPS is telling us we are in the departure mode, so that sets certain range here on the course deviation in nautical miles, which is different than en route and during the approach. I will make the sim quieter. I see it's way too loud for you. Sorry for that. So I actually need to check it as soon as I add power to make sure it's not too loud for you. Now, what's about this climbing? I doesn't want to go anyway. Maybe it just simply doesn't want to go below the blue line. And one thing to remember, we need to keep adding power as we climb, because there is no turbocharger here, so once the pressure outside decreases, the manifold pressure goes down as well. And we also should be leaning as we climb, but that might be difficult. Actually, let's try. So we have the EGT here, we need to find the peak and then go 100 below the peak. So 100 is one thick line, goes all the way up. Okay, so we need to be somewhere around here. Yep, that should be fine. Let's have a reading here, how much that is actually. So that's 1100 Fahrenheit, I suppose. Okay, I'll add again some more throttle. And I should be doing this every 1000 feet, so try to keep a habit that at every 1000 feet I will be adding 1 inch of power. The music today that we are listening to is the... Well, I'll just paste and you'll see what that is. So this is what we are listening today. Japanese lo-fi radio, no copyright, which is great for us. And we are slowly closing on the next point for departure, Whiskey Romeo 902, and the GPS should instruct the autopilot to turn there because we are in the nav mode and we are following the GPS. So let's add again 1 inch of power, 1 inch of manifold pressure. And I want to find out how this works. So let's see if it goes to the 500 now. It does. So now let's try to go 900. Yay. I love this dancing cat emote. It's just awesome. Let me find it here. There we go. We listened to our last night in the loop last time, so I thought maybe we can have something different today. But actually, we might switch for a moment later on, so I do not fall asleep here. It's not a bad idea at all. Okay. The VNAV is... I'm not interested in it because I'll be doing it manually. It's taking a long time to follow this approach. I think it's designed more for the jets. They do it in seconds. And I'm still puzzled by this autopilot. Normally they would just go as high in pitch as they can, and stall the aircraft for you. So you have to be very careful, watch what they're doing. But it looks like this one doesn't want to go below 110 knots, which is pretty nice. I like it. Let's see if you add more power. Will it actually increase the climb rate? Yeah, it does. Amazing. So that's a very nice feature. The aircraft I flew, I know it just follows the pitch up to try to reach your target, and it will gladly store the aircraft for you. Okay, we should be turning in 9 seconds. So this sort of your flight director, it will tell you what to do in a moment, and you have to look here, and if you're flying manually, just follow what it's saying. Okay, there we go, the turn. I will zoom in a bit. Maybe that was too much. So now we're starting to actually turn in the way where we want to fly. Then that's a nice touch. And okay, that's 1000 to go. Hey! Thank you for the first chat here. I think we're not interested. Thank you. I still need to learn how to do that. So I'll add it to my list of things to learn. 500 feet to go. And this is way more chill than the last time. I'm not sure if you watched, but the last time I flew everything manually, trying to juggle the charts at the same time, and it was a mess. But hey, that's a good reminder why I should use the autopilot. It's there to help me. So I'm actually starting to feel very comfortable with just looking at the instruments here, not caring what's outside the window. Even if there is something, I just ignore it. And what can happen is that you can, for example, see an edge of clouds being illuminated, and your head can think this is the horizon, like in this direction, and then you see it, you try to straighten up, but it's actually the wrong way. So that's something you need to be aware of when instrument flying. Okay, 9000 feet, let's accelerate, and then we'll reduce the power to cruise setting. It's also lean here. I remember this should be around 950 Fahrenheit, but let's find the peak again. So all the way forward, let's find the peak. It should be here. So here's the peak. We need to go 100 lower. So I'll go just to the previous thick line and somewhat the same position. That is great. We have accelerated, so I can keep my manifold pressure at 22. There is no turbocharger, so throttle forward is all we can get at this point. And I will reduce our prop to 22. So this should make it quieter, and will reduce the power and the fuel we use. I'm not sure if you heard Hesses, but this gauge here is actually the fuel pressure. And you can see it here, it's marked as the low scale. The low end and the top end are marked as the fuel pressure. Everything else is marked as the fuel flow, but this is actually fuel pressure meter. And let me try to get them to show the same reading. And what happens also is that when you move the fuel pumps, you will see the effect here. So the change is not primarily because there is more fuel flowing, but because the pressure changed. But any excess fuel that's flowing into the engine is collected and returned to the main tank, which reminds me that I wanted to switch to the auxiliary fuel tanks. So fuel pump to low. Let's use this headlamp. Oh dear. I need to use that, find our few selectors. Now, I never know which way to turn my mouse. So let's see, maybe up? Yes, that worked. And maybe up? Yes, that worked. Okay, let's leave it for a moment. And turn off the fuel pumps and turn off the headlamp. I see we're turning, so let's see what's going on here. We are following our departure, which is so long. They just did it in minutes, and you can hear them screaming over the city. But it's taking ages for us. Now, I got a bit lazy here. I need to keep my heading. So we go to 111. And we need our course also. So that's at least where I want it to go. So course I'm trying to match with the direct track that's shown here on the GPS. This is the actual track of this. Now, this doesn't know our heading, so it's only showing our current track, but we can tell our heading here on the CDI, HSI. And let's have a look at the flight plan, how much we have remaining. So I press the knob and now I can go and see. So we have 38 miles here and then 21 miles to the next one. I would expect it to show the cumulative miles, but it's actually, well, yeah, it's just showing the legs. Okay. Too bad. I wonder if there's a way to tell the cumulative distance to each waypoint. So, I need to wake up a bit, so let's change the music for a moment. And we will play our favorite. Let me just find it. There we go. You can use whatever emotes you want, and quick reminder that you can use blurb and sound alerts to trigger some sounds. Let's see outside how we are doing. Totally uninteresting scenery. It actually looks pretty nice, but if I want to fly live weather in the evenings now in Europe, well, that's what we're going to see. Rock on. Love those Ivanus emotes. I'll show you in the nav graph how we're doing with our departure and our route. So here's our departure. We are here, and then we go straight to Nunuk, just 40 miles. It will take forever. Well, maybe a bit less. Actually, let's see how long it will take. So we are doing 160 knots indicated. Our ground speed is 190. I don't want to try to calculate our task at the moment, but we have the ground speed here, which is amazing, and we'll be turning in 30 seconds. So I'll close it, we'll go to our route view. So we go to Lunok, then a short hop to Okenko, and from there it's pretty messed up here on the nav graph. I see the plane turn, so let me go back there. Cool, so let me set our course and heading. So we are direct track 067. So I go to 065 and 2 notches. Let's set our heading. Okay, 36 miles to go, 11 minutes. This is also a very nice feature that tells you when you will be at the next waypoint. You should be able to see more fields here. I just don't want to change them, but I want to find a way to see when we'll reach our destination. Nobody knows. Look, we can calculate our task here. Great. Okay, don't want to do that at the moment. Okay. I'll maybe have a look at the approach now. That will come in handy later. We can have a quick look at the weather, although I do not have the matter for our destination. This is a military airport. And let me show you. We actually, so we have this Polish website with the weather for aviation. This is the regional weather in the A2 region. And we have the military meters here, but well, they're not available anymore. Too bad. But we have our significant, the lower one, from surface to flight level 100. And we are basically flying between the lows now. So the weather IRL here isn't great. I'll try to show you what it looks like on the satellite picture. Well, these departures aren't exactly for the GA, so I'm not sure if we have more. Like, what can happen is that they are designed for jets and you might not be able to meet the performance there, so you actually need to route through them. But actually, I can tell you why this is, because we had this whole PBN exercise and they want to introduce the PBN approaches at all airports and departure and so on. So a few years ago, like in 2019, they basically added PBN, well, RNF departures for most of the airports, and they actually started using that. So before that we just filed whatever and we just flew straight out as directed. Now whatever we file, they give us a departure that you have to read back and at least start following. Then the approach can direct you somewhere else. So here's our significant from flight. Oh, so we are here between the fronts, and I want to show you the satellite picture. So let me gather. Okay, so this is the visual from the satellite. Of course it's all black because it's night. And we can go to infrared, which will show something more. Well, obviously it's harder to tell what is what because it's nighttime. But as you can see, there are clouds there, and we are flying from around here to here. Yep, that's it. Let's have a look at the rain. So there is some rain from this arc here. And that's basically it. I have the meter for our departure, which is pretty nice. Light rain, 9,000 meters visibility, scatter 700, broken 1000. Bit okay. But you might get into some freezing, maybe. Okay, let's get back into the aircraft, see how we're doing. So we're in about Lunok, 22 miles. And then we have 20 miles to go. And actually we're doing our flights with Honor and Acres. Let's check if it's running. So Acres is running and Honor is running. The Honor actually loaded so much cargo, I couldn't load the plane with the tablet. I had to fiddle with the MSP settings, but it did let me do that. And I know what I forgot. You must be freezing to death because... Well. I forgot to turn on any heating. So let's do that now. Why aren't you complaining? So... yeah, just our temperature controls to the 12 o'clock position. Okay, I'll make it up for you. Move it to 2 o'clock position. So you can be super warm for the remainder of the flight. Phew. That was a close call. Alright. Let's go back to the chill radio so I can fall asleep for the approach and maybe we'll see something funny going on. I wonder how you feel about spending the whole flight looking into the darkness, but it feels pretty good to me. I'm so used to looking only at the instruments at this point that can just ignore what's outside, although normally I would be just enjoying the views. But because of the night, well, there's not much. And I really like this red light here in the cockpit, so you do not need the right headlamp. When I was doing night VFR, I actually had to wear a red headlamp because the aircraft didn't have it, which is okay, but it's pretty inconvenient having a blob here on your forehead. Jesus, did you do the same, or was your aircraft well equipped? Nobody knows. The cabin is cool and steady. Why? We need to be warm and steady. Passengers and the cargo are very uncomfortable, unless it's frozen cargo, that would make it better. I wonder at what point did it change to 29092, or is that the... I think it's just... we had 29091 at the airport and I actually forgot to change it. Oh no. Yeah, we had 1010 at the airport. No, 1012 actually. I didn't see any difference. Very convenient. But not what we want. We want to remember about it. So our transition altitude is 6500, where we should change from QNH to standard, and on the way down we'll do that at 8000. Flight level 80. We are not on VATSIM, but let's set the VATSIM. Unicom frequency. I can also change our next frequency for WASC, which is for the approach 125350. Now that you have 832 radar, you turn these knobs forever to get to the right frequency. When you had only 2 digits, well, that turned way faster, but now it takes forever. Okay, I will also set the VR that I want to navigate later. I hope it will work. It actually might not, because it's a Takan. That's 108.55. I see. I'm curious if it will work, so let's have a look. Tango Alpha Sierra. Yeah, that works. So it's a Takan. It shows up here, but maybe it's just the distance. Maybe it's not giving the VR readings, just the DME readings. But that's not bad at all. So I will need to navigate through the GPS for that. So it's good that we code that up. So let's change our route here. So we'll insert a point here. And that will be TAS, Tango Alpha Sierra. So I started using the keyboard mode, which is basically cheating. I feel bad for not twisting the knobs. It says here at VR, so I'm curious how that works. And it did enter it into the approach, which shouldn't be possible. The GPS shouldn't let you edit the approach in any way, shape or form. 310 for the win. Yay! Very nice to see you, this Viper here. I haven't seen you in ages in any chat. So glad to catch you up here. And the C310 is really great. I love it. I love the state saving. So whatever I leave on the previous flight, when I boot up is here. So for example, we had already the heading back set for the departure because it was on the landing. But what I didn't cut up in time is that we didn't have the takeoff trim set. So as soon as I started rolling, I saw it pitching up, so we stopped on the runway and adjusted the trim. So that's very nice. I just hope I'm switching everything on and off as required. And the fuel system is slightly different than other aircraft. So I recommend to read the manual. Basically for startup, you just flip the primer to the side that you need and you hold the start button until it starts. And only after the startup, you move the pump to low for a while. The cabin temperature is not rising, so maybe we need to move it to heat. Okay, and we need to brief the approach because we are moving in very fast. The approach is super easy. There is this racetrack, so there is holding over Tango Alpha Sierra. This is Takan, but it might or might not work as VR. The chart is suggesting it will not work as VR because it's in the brackets, so it will probably in real life only give you the DME, but we'll see how the sim works. Yeah, the tip tanks are not mains. Actually, I don't know. Well, the fuel selectors just say the main tank and the auxiliary tank, but I think the mains are the wing tanks because, well, if you move the fuel pumps to high, which you shouldn't do unless it's emergency and your engine fuel pump failed, it will throw the excess fuel back to the tanks, to the main tanks. So I assume the main tanks are the wing tanks because that's where it's closer to drop the fuel. And also it's interesting that, I'll show you, this gauge here is actually the fuel pressure gauge, which is then translated to the fuel flow, but it's primarily measuring the pressure, and that's the reason when I change the fuel pump, why it's changing the fuel flow, which is not what would normally happen. But then it's any excess fuel that's coming into the engine, it will drop it back to the tanks. Just now, well, I have been live for a while, but Twitch is very well known to have this notification super late. I'll be able to find up some regular schedule at some point, so you'll know when to tune in. But until then, it's a bit chaotic. I don't know. Maybe I should start up my Discord so you can see notifications there, but then I never look into anyone's notifications on Discord because there's a gazillion of notifications everywhere and my mind just cannot take it. Yes, I do post in other people's Discord, just so maybe I can interest someone. And yeah, that's it. I wonder if this VR works. It probably doesn't work, but we did set it here as our route, although it is not showing up here, which is strange. I know what we'll do, we'll just do direct to, because I do not want to bother with that. And then our approach, get back to it, super straightforward. So the ALS is 110.9. Reason why there is Takan is that this military airport, there are actually F-16s there. It's one of the 2 bases that have them. And our approach. So we do the racetrack, starting at Takan. We should be able to navigate with GPS there. We descend from 3000 to 2300. That's left-hand racetrack. Audience 1-1. At distance 9 to the Takan, I think. Yes. To Tango Alpha Sierra. We turn inbound to 281 and way later intercept our glide path. The minimums are 831, that's 200 feet above the ground, and the go round is straight ahead 3000, which is my favorite, and then left to the Taken. That's pretty cool. I will move it later for you so that you can see it. Let's make the music quieter because it started to be super loud. Alright, so let's hide it and let's go. I did spend a lot of time talking. We're basically there, so I will prepare our direct. I'm using the keyboard mode today, which is basically cheating. So enter, did it work? Oh, I need to unclick this keyboard mode, now enter. That's the one in Poland, and we do not activate yet. I will wait until we reach our point. Okay, let's go. I'm patient. So let's see, that's 8 minutes. That's probably fine. We need to descend now to 3000. Here's our alarm, just like in the morning. And let's see, it started descending already. It's doing this weird loop. So let me go to the heading. I didn't notice that it wants to do the loop. And let's follow that. So that should be 083. I will move our course there. So that's 080 and 1, 2, 3. That's a good way for me to know the intermediate values. I have the harder... So you say it's cheating if I have the harder knob to use. I have the harder knob in aircraft and I can assure it is not easy. So... let's descend faster. Let's try... Okay, I used the wrong way. So let's set in 1500. The cabin is comfortable and steady. Okay, now I can sleep well. Yes, I've had... So this is in the real airplane, I had the 430, the small one, in the Tecnam 2002 JR. JR is the retractable gear. I can show it later. And I flew quite a lot for my hour building. And yeah, it takes ages. Flip our keyboard on the diamonds. Well, keyboards are not bad, but I'm not sure if you noticed, many aircraft use, well, now they use QWERTY keyboard, but very often they have alphabetic order. And then it turns out it's not actually very easy to remember the order of the letters in alphabet when you actually have to use it on the keyboard, like in the A through 20. It definitely took me some time to learn that. Let's see how we're doing here. So we're descending to 3000, we pass our transition level. I will just hit the B and get the QNH. We do not have the meteor because that's military airbase and they do not publish the meteors anymore. Cry. So we used to have them here, but they say it's not published for a while. We have the civil meteors, but the military are no more. We also have this significant that we checked earlier, and rain and whatnot. And yeah, the Texans are gorgeous, but they can be troublesome in the cold weather like here. Basically the electric system can have all sorts of issues every now and then. And yeah, I didn't look at the speed and we oversped it. Oh no, that's too bad. It did happen to me before. The problem with this aircraft is as soon as you go one knot over the airspeed, it will just kill the aircraft. Which isn't fun because it won't happen like that in the real aircraft. It will take a bit more. No, what do we know now? So that means I botched my acres and honor. And it's also a reminder to watch. So I killed my flight here, so that's that. I abort my flight here. We'll do it again. In that case, I'll just do it offline to catch up. But what we can do now is, well, I want to do this landing, so let's do that. I wonder if we should maybe start meter. Let's start meter. No. It's way too easy to overspeed this aircraft in descent. So let's see. I don't usually start mid-flight, so I'm not sure how this will work. I think our airport is here, and we need to be somewhere, let's say somewhere around here. Now I wonder how it works meter. So it will put us at 5,000 feet. So we can just move ourselves up to 9,000 and go from there. Cool. If it wasn't for the chill music, I would have stressed out when I heard this, but we can try again. So I'll just... Okay. A little aircraft. Easy peasy. So let everything settle. We will use our mode to go to 9,000. How high is 9,000? It's higher. Okay, that's above 9,000. We are good to go. Let's not stall. Let's get some speed. Get these engines running. Are they not running in the first place? Let's see. Gears up, the flap is up. Pilot is off. We need the engines, so it will be much better with the engines, I think. Never know. On our screen, sorry, forgot. I thought it would never happen to me, so that's the first one. What said it's over 9,000? Well, we'll need to... Let's restart in this try again. I don't want to bother with that now. Yes, I know. I'm still running, trying to keep the eye on the live monitor and chat, everything, but it's getting better and better. It's pretty cool. So not having a billion viewers when you start is actually a good thing, because it lets you practice. It is a skill. You have chat docked in OBS. Well, I just have it as part of other screens, so I can save more space in the OBS. Okay, let's just fly from here. Autopilot off. Now it's flying. Yeah, what works is you have to have eyes everywhere, which is basically like flying the aircraft. You have to look here, here, on your chart, and everywhere. Let me get the slides. I absolutely love in the door those red lights here. Oh, you need the headlights to find them. It is just great. I love it. Maybe the red is not the color I want to see, but it's definitely the one that works great in this scenario. Okay, let's climb a bit. Let's what? Set it to 9,000. Go back somewhere where we were. This is okay, so we can start the autopilot now. You can go up. I still do not understand all the bits of the autopilot. Maybe one day. I'm not sure if we can all do the things your way. It will be boring though, don't you think? Cool, so we have ourselves going somewhere. Let's get this direct to, and we wanted to go direct TAS, which we should have on the EPWR as well. Okay, let's have a preview here on the GPS. Click that. I think I'll go back to using the knobs. Okay, that's 1,000 to go, which is great. We can go to nav mode. So that's GPS and nav. There we go. I like this display more. I like the flight plan display, although there is not much here now. That's 17 minutes away. So yeah, we can go back where we were. Pretty good. And let's see what this airspeed is doing when we're in descent, as soon as we get to 9,000, because I'm curious how to manage this plane descent. Also, another thing to remember is that when you're descending, it will automatically add power, because the manifold pressure is increasing, because the outside pressure is increasing by 1 inch per every 1,000 feet that we go down. So here's our cruise prop. Let's see if I have the PR and ILS. So 110.9 is what I want later, and 108.55. That didn't save here. Maybe because it crashed. I wonder how it works when you crash. Okay. So that's the VR, and the ILS is 110.9er. There you go. So that's for later. "30 minutes there, and we need to descend 6,000 feet. So we still have time." Cool, we are back on track sooner than I anticipated. The weather in the sim, I think, is much better than the weather IRL. We can see the city there. Oh, our code. Now we have it. And we should go to 290902. And need to remember to switch it later. Okay, so that's it here. Okay, let's set it on the other altimeter first as well. I'm moving in the wrong way. So I just tried to make the altimeter smudge so I do not need to read into the window. That should make it easier for me. Yeah, should be about the same now. Cool, now we can replay our scenario and see how it has developed. Let's get to this 9,000 and then we can descend. The leaning should be about 850 here, so that's what I said. Okay, so our cruise setting is 22. Let's keep it here and let's start the descent. So we go down to 3,000. I think I need to click the arm and that's when it will start descending. No. So I did set 1,500 then, and I think that was the error. We should have kept it at 1,000 maybe. Let's watch this airspeed now. 150. 160. And I remember I did reduce the throttle a bit there. 170. So how did you overspeed it? I think it was basically rising when we were descending. So if you watch the manifold pressure, it will go up. So now we're at 8,000, it's around 19, and then 1,000 feet lower, it should go to 20. And we can see the airspeed going up. So that's how it developed. And then as soon as it touches the red line, that's game over for the Milvies. It's not so for the other aircraft though. Now, do we have enough to here? Yes, we do. Oh, so that's what happened? No. 108. So in the enough to, I want to check this VR because I'm curious. I need to remember all the speed, so it's 190 now. Let's try do something else and glimpse there. 195. Now it doesn't want to overspeed. Yet. Okay. We are 1000 feet below our transition level, so I'll hit B and we go to QNH. Okay, and let's see if we can see the VOR on our nav2. We do not even have an instrument for the nav2. Okay, I think it works like that, but it's not showing anything. And here we can also change the DME to use the nav2, so we do not see the labels. Oh, the airspeed is at 200 now. So let me slow down a bit. Where are those buttons? I swear there are buttons here. Not anymore. Okay, so when we are descending, I need to remember to bring down the manifold pressure as we descend. And we are 18 miles out. So there won't be anything interesting here. Secret click spot. Strength and error codes. Well, I know other secret click spot is this one. I like this one more. What kind of errors do you mean for the aircraft? But I think we're fine like that. Yay. I should put it into my checklist to enable this one. Error codes for the plane. Well, if the plane works fine, we don't need any error codes. I think we can already see the airport in front of us, but I want to do the full procedure. Show up in the DME. The error codes. Dear. So let's put the direct track here. 1000 to go, which means we need to reduce our descent to 1000 feet per minute. And my course, it's not working because it's nav 2. Oh dear. And let's go to heading mode so I can switch back to... What's this light reflection here? There are all sorts of colors appearing in the canopy. Get me worried here for a second. Yeah, we cannot let them get run over. I really hope this ends soon. Maybe sooner the better. Now would be perfect. Okay, we're leveling up, so I need our cruise power. So 22 is fine. We need to get this mixture a bit richer. Or maybe a bit leaner. Let's have a look. Okay, so let's put the heading, get the autopilot into the heading mode so I can fiddle with our nav here. So if I switch to VLOC, well, the energy bills, who knows? But we're running on coal, so it's sort of okay. No idea. Okay, focus here. So the VR is not working, which is as expected, which means we cannot do the holding there really. So maybe what we'll do instead, we will just do outbound and procedure turn, so we will not follow whatever is on the plate. Okay, so let's switch to the ILS. See if it works. Doesn't work. 110.9er, 110.9er. Well, that's too bad. So I guess we'll land visually, and here goes our IFR approach. Okay, the inbound is 2-in-1, outbound is 101. So let's remember that. Maybe we'll set our course already, so that goes to 101. It should be here. Go a bit right. The airport is clearly visible, but we can't do the ILS approach. Oh, we cannot do the ILS approach because we do not have the ILS. So it looks like Misfits doesn't want to see it. I'll need to replay the flight anyway for the honor. So that's too bad. So what do you do? That's the visual. And we'll be back on the ground. Mixture forward. I'll switch on fuel pumps to low. Landing light on. And let's see where our airport is. Somewhere over there. I will zoom this out so I have some situation indicator here. Let's clear our flight plan. Doesn't want to do that. Maybe now. Okay. Never mind then. We'll just watch it over here. So the airport elevation is this. We find some charts. 640 feet. Okay, so we'll descend to like 1,700 and that should put us in for the approach. Now, course for the approach is 281. Now we can see the ILS. Hey, that's good. So in that case, let's fly it. So I think we should be somewhere on the outbound. So we'll fly it outbound on the 101. On 2,300 is where it should descend to. I need to trim it. Let's get a bit more power, so 22. I'll show the charts so that you can see what I'm doing. And don't worry, I will move it right for you. There you go. So that should be nice for you. We keep on the soundabout and focus on the flying. And also, I'll show you the trim once we land because it works pretty weird here, and I might have some tips how to use it, but we'll see if it's useful for you. So it takes some using too, but what you want to do is to set some pitch and then you feel the pressure on the yoke, and then you want to start trimming and keep the button and move the yoke until you feel there is no pressure anymore on the yoke. This is more or less like what you do IRL, but obviously here it doesn't work that nicely. So it's very hard to stop in the very precise place and do some small movements. I will show you why when we land. Okay, skip this unbound. We need to go to 9 miles. So we still have 3 miles to go. And I want to be at 2,300 more or less. Still have room, so slowly descend there. And once we turn around, we still have a few miles to go, so that's when I'll slow down and configure the aircraft. Force feedback would be cool. The sims that you use for training, they do have force feedback, but they're like the real one, which means when you're moving the yoke, when you trim, it moves where the neutral point is. But because we don't have it here, it works actually different in in the sim that in normal GA aircraft. So it works for every aircraft like in an airliner. $200 feet to go, and let me double check my minima. 831. So 831. Okay, we are at 9 miles. Let's turn inbound, continue the descent. Continuing descent, turning inbound. And we want to intercept the localizer, so I will not turn all the way in, but to more or less 30 degrees for intercept. So 281 plus 30, that will be 311. That's where we want to go. Then once we see the localizer alive, we'll start turning in. The higher intercept angle is not recommended because it will be hard for you to make the turn and capture it once it starts moving. Start moving now, so we need to overshoot and go back. We are at our altitude that we want it to be. We can get the gear out, so speed check should be below 158. That is okay. Gear selected down. Let's keep this 2300, so I need to pull the yoke and start trimming up. Okay, so now we did overshoot it quite a lot. I can see the airport though, so that's a big tell. Let's keep it like this. Okay, trimming back. I'll move the props into the top of the green area, which is around 2400. Localizer is alive. Airspeed is okay, that's what I want to keep during the approach. Or maybe we'll want to go a bit lower to the blue line, which is at around 105. I wonder why the lights are getting lighter now. Okay, works for me. Okay, flap on the first notch, that's what we'll use for landing. Props full forward, well, we can, but you know, they don't want to do it for too long because it's not in the green area. So we can have it for the descent or maybe just on the final check. So let me try to do this on the final check, which we can do maybe 500 above minimums. If you wonder about that, you should check the manual. Manual will tell you what to do. So the aircraft may differ, but the way I want to think about it today is the green arc you can be all the time. If you're not in the green arc, well, you shouldn't be more than maybe 5 minutes. Depends what's the limitation. So yes, most of the time I always did that too, so that shouldn't be a problem. But on the aircraft I was flying, it was green arc on the props all the way to the red line. So maybe that's the difference. As far as I can remember though, maybe it wasn't. And the green is down, that's what I wanted to show you here. Okay, glide slope alive, so you can start descent. I'll reduce the power a bit. And we need, our ground speed is 100, so 5 times 100, we need 500 feet per minute descent. So that puts us, the yellow balls, just touching the first mark. So that's where I want to be. And now I need to work on my scan, so I look mostly on the attitude indicator and just glimpse on the other instrument. So let me slow down a bit, so maybe this, and now I can move the props forward. So, and we still have 1000, over 1000 to go. And let's keep this decent speed. Okay, so 1000 to go, that was 831. And final check. Mixture forward, prop forward, green 3 green, flaps 1. We're good to go. On Rotax, yes. It was Rotax to Technom 2006, but I need to check this prop indicator because I don't remember if it had green scale all the way up or not. But we did use the prop full forward for the whole approach, basically. Okay, we're on glide slope again. So let's keep this 500, try to be at or above the blue line, which we'll need in case the engine fails. We want to already be at our best single engine climb speed, so we do not need to trade the altitude for the airspeed. It's not what you want to do with one engine. Okay. 500 to go. $400 to go. $300 to go. $200 to go. $100 to go. Minimums, runway inside, continue. Cool. So when we landed on Sunday, we couldn't see the runway until, well, we saw the approach lights, but we saw the runway threshold when it's basically the width of the whole screen. So I'm just looking outside now, not looking inside anymore. So let's get this over the runway, slowly reduce power and try to gently settle her down. So we touched already. I still can't judge the height, and this runway seems to be narrower than the previous one. Okay. Laps up. Butter. Yeah, we landed twice actually, because the first one was so soft I didn't even hear it. Fuel pumps off. So I'm not using the checklist because I try to get the habit of remembering what I have to do. But when I'm flying in real aircraft, I always use the checklist, so I do not rely on my memory. Hey Bulldog! Thank you for the first chat. Nice to see you here. We just landed. We did crash the airplane in flight before because I oversped it, because I was looking at Navigraph. So I'll have to redo the flight offline. And we arrived in Łask, which is military airbase in Poland, one that's hosting F-16s. Yay, you finally made it. Very happy to see you. Very nice. You can use blurb and sound alerts, which should be on the right hand side of the screen in the add-on or whatever. Okay, vacated the runway. Transponders standby. Taxi lights on, landing lights off, strobe lights were off all the time, and we can taxi. Let's pull up the taxi chart and see what we're doing. Where do you want to go? Let's go apron 3, that should be around the control tower. Let's make sure you can see the whole thing. So here to the apron 3. So how do you want to go? Charlie, then right into Echo, and we should be in apron 3. Let's go. I wonder if we have the plates for the taxiways, but probably won't. Nope. So I do have the add-on from Black Square that's putting improved taxiways and taxiway signs on most airports, but I guess because this is military airport, it doesn't have it. Holy Chef 35. Yeah, we did buy them, but I think they're still a long time. Come. I'll see it after the stream. Thanks for the info, DC. So we're just moving past the buildings and the apron should be straight ahead soon. And I remember about the trim for EDC. I need to show you because it's interesting. So let's take the second position here and just park anywhere. Oh, we can even turn around. So I would rather turn around. I like to park my plane in a position that lets me do something with it next time I fly. Or I move it manually. Okay, parking brake is set. Taxi light off. Let me get this a bit brighter here. We'll blast it all the way up. By the way, there is this radio light here, and when it's full up, it's blasting into your eyes, but when you turn it full down, the transponder is not showing anything. So one time I was wondering why it's not working, and you simply have to turn the radio up, and then it's working. Okay. Before I send the engines, I want to show the trim situation. So let me make it the day, and I will show you. Now, I think that the behavior of the trim wheel is based on the auto repeat, because initially in FS98 or whatever, it was bound to a key, and whenever I touch the button, it just moves one notch. But then I need to hold it. It does nothing for a while, and then it starts moving. So I don't know. I will click when I press it, and you'll see what happens. You see, it moves a bit, then does nothing, and then starts moving constantly. Now in real aircraft, as soon as you trigger the switch, it will start moving constantly, slowly but steady. And that's why it's so hard to trim here, because this input lag is basically very hard to control. Now in some aircraft, just one click moves by a reasonable amount, so that's fine, but that makes it very hard to stop at precise position. So this is somewhat inconvenient. So another thing that you want to know is how the trim works. So in general aviation aircraft, basically you pitch for some speed that you want, and then what happens when you trim is that this trim tab is moving, but the elevator stays in the same position. So that means that when you're trimming, the yoke stays in the same position, but the force is disappearing until you feel no force, but you do not move the yoke at all. So this is very easy to do, because you do not move the yoke, you just move the trim until you do not feel the force on the yoke, and you can let your hands go. It is different on the airliner, so because then their trimming moves the horizontal stabilizer plane. So when you're trimming on airliner, this plane will be moving up. So then you will need to release your yoke input while you are trimming. So this behavior that we have here is more like the airliner, but it's harder to fine-tune the trim for the G aircraft. Now the way I want to do it is I just hold the yoke in some position like I would do normally, and then I just hold the trim and slowly move the yoke in until it goes into neutral position, and then I let go. With some practice you can make that so that you can stop in the right position. I hope it's making sense. So this in J-plane, the trimming would work like I hold the yoke here, and then I move the trim until I do not feel the force, and I can let my hands go. But that's not the case here. What you have to do here is you pitch for the speed you want, and then you start trimming and steadily move the yoke until it's in neutral, and then you stop trimming and let go of your hands. So I hope that works for you. Other thing that you can do is you can assign axis to the trim, and I can actually show that because I did set it up for gliders recently. Let me show you. Maybe it will help you. So since you're here, just one sec, I need to connect the other device. I wonder if you can hear me walking around. Don't worry, everything is fine. I'm just plugging it in and we'll be back. Okie dokie. So we're here. I did plug in one more device. That's the Logitech/Cytec throttle. It's fairly simple, but to be honest, it's very good. Now the thing is, because I have two of them, it might... I'm not sure if it did recognize the other one. Where are you? Let me plug it somewhere else. Hey, now it works. Great success. So here I am. We have the Cytec ProFlight quadrant. That's the one I'm holding in my hand. Where on earth is that? I think that's the one. Let's see. Actually, I have the other one, which I have set to the parking brake. So let's see if that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Great. So you can set actually the trim axis here. And I have another device hanged under the Bravo, and I use this for parking brake. So that's what you saw in the other mapping. You can actually map this like buttons. So see, there is set parking brake, and I have the other one, and I'm using this for parking brake. So that should work, and let's have a look inside. So now this is the trim axis. Sorry for the noises. And you can use it for trim. Let me move those two. And then you can just, you know what the trim is. So this is great. And you can actually feel as you move it. Just the issue is that you have to sometimes do very small movements, like 0.5 millimeter. So that might be difficult. But other than that, that's pretty okay. Unless this trim here is shaking, so maybe that's not great. Another problem is that if you then trim using the yoke or the button, oh, it doesn't let you do that here. So it's another advice that you can try and see if it works for you. It might make it easier for you to at least feel what's going on, and once you get the feeling of this, then you can try using simply the button on the yoke. So that's all the tips I had. We can switch off the engines now. Very helpful. I'm very glad to help, and I think this is not implemented well, but not because someone wasn't nice. I think it's a historical reason that it was a key binding, and now it works like key auto repeat, so it moves a bit, nothing, and then it starts moving. So how I do now is I just pitch, then hold the trim button and steadily move the yoke until it's at 0, and then I just need some small input. I know, there's no good way to do it. I also use the one on the Bravo, but that doesn't give me the feedback that I want. Yeah, this repeat is crazy, and we don't need that anymore because it's not bound to the keyboard keys, but I think they did that legacy behavior, so it's behaving like keys, although no one does it on the keyboard anymore. Well, hardly anyone. even if it was, I don't know. That's what it is. So we should turn the avionics off before we switch off the engines so that any current doesn't damage the avionics. So avionics off, alternators off for the same reason. Now we kill the engines with the mixture. They did die. In this kind of aircraft, we do leave the props forward. And also one thing to know is that now that the engine is dead, this will not move in any way because those governors are using the engine oil pressure to control the pitch of the blades. And one thing to know in twins, so there's oil pressure that's controlling the blade in one direction and the spring that is pushing it in another direction. Then the governor is trying to balance it out. And in twins, if the oil fails, there is no oil pressure, the spring will move the prop to the feathered position. But in singles, usually it will move it to flat position. So that's the position you want to have when you use the oil pressure. That's the best scenario for you. In twins, you want it feather. In singles, you want to develop power, so it's in the flat position. Anti-collision light off. Nav light is off. And never ever forget the magnetos. Battery off. Now, if you want to be extra sure, it is safe to turn the engine because we need to do it, for example, on the pre-flight to distribute the oil. You can pop the circuit breaker for the starter relay. Now, I don't remember which one is here, but it should say starter relay. Okay, don't see it here. There's no other panel there. The gauges, fuel flow, start. So I think that's the one. That's the one for starter. Let's see actually. Yeah, it's not turning. Now I pop it in. And it's turning. So before on the pre-flight, we need to, when it's the first flight date, we need to turn the prop a few times. Depending on the aircraft. On Rotax, we need to do that. On this, maybe you don't need to. But on Rotax, we need to do that. And if you want to do that, you want to make sure the aircraft, it won't start. So you turn off the magnetos, but you also turn off the starter relay. And then you are pretty sure it won't start in your face. That's something to know. Okay, let's have a look around the airport and we'll wrap it up. So that's our mighty Cessna 310. I really like this aircraft now in the Misfits. This is the default scenery, so I'm not sure if there'll be much here. Yay! I'm glad that you love 310. I do too. It's really fun to fly. It has all the bells and whistles for the IFR. It's plenty powerful and has great performance and speed, but doesn't have the extra trouble of the more performant aircraft like Inger. No pressurization, no nothing. So it's sort of simple but great performance and definitely enables you to do the IFR. Okay, can't see much here. There are just bunker hangars here. This is the military base. I'm not sure if they are used or not, but they are definitely here. That's pretty much it. This spot here probably hosts the Takan. To be good at landing. Okay, so I might have a tip for you. Do you want me to show you? I can show you. So I did unplug the other device and I will show you. Now, how do we do that? I think we can use the states, can't we? No. So we just have to start up everything. No worries. So I'll do it the quick version. Now the fuel system here, I'm not sure if you have read the manual, but I know I did after I had some trouble starting it. Okay, I had to adjust my seat there. So you do not turn on the fuel pumps for startup. You just move the primer and hold the button until it starts. And don't forget the mixture and to crank the throttle. So this priming mechanism is very interesting. I'm not sure how it's realized. And then the fuel pump, you only use the low for takeoff, landing, and shortly after startup, you do not use the high because it just throws the fuel back into the main tank. Cool. So let's do it quick. I'll just go there, takeoff, and show you the landing. We can handle the grass if it's pretty even. I hope it is. It looks pretty even to me, right? So I will maybe explain you what the tip is about first, and then I'll demonstrate it to you. That should make it easier to follow what's going on. Okay, so if you're landing, usually it's a pretty shallow descent. It's 3-degree angle. Now it looks pretty steep from the aircraft, but 3 degrees is like basically nothing, right? So it's not very fast. And you have some power for that descent, and the aircraft is slowly descending. Now, as soon as the aircraft gets into the ground effect, the drag is reduced, so aircraft behaves as if it had more power or it wants to fly and float. So with the power setting that you had on a stable 3-degree descent, you will be able to float above the whole runway pretty high. And now the idea is that you start this float, establish this float, and slowly reduce power, which will settle down and down and down until you touch the ground. So that is one thing that you can use when you have a lot of runway and you're not good at judging the distance from the runway, which can happen when you're flying real aircraft as well. If you haven't flown it for a while, or it's a runway that you don't know, or you haven't flown for a while. So instead of slamming it or relying on your muscle memory, you can just do that. So let me take off and try to demonstrate that to you. We'll take off, turn around. I did forget this trim again. So this is funny. Okay. I will leave the gear. I will leave the flaps. And this works better with the flaps. Not full flaps, takeoff flaps, so the first notch, depending on the aircraft. So I did turn right like 45 degrees and we'll do some sort of teardrop. Hey, Trash Gaming, very nice to see you here. Float in these planes sit a lot more necessary for smooth landing versus like Piper 03. Maybe. And this is a low wing aircraft, so the float will be much higher than, for example, in high wings aircraft like Cessna 172. So the floating effect is way more pronounced in the low wing aircraft. Okay, I want to be pretty shallow on the approach, so fly a bit forward and we'll see when we end up. But I think the difference in the floating in the aircrafts in Misfits is just a problem with the simulation. It's not that those aircraft behave very differently. It's rather than different developers put different values and they behave differently in the sim. But another thing is that in this aircraft we approach at much higher speed usually than in EPWR or whatever. Just move this sun away. Now where's our airport? There we go. Cool. So I'll try to make it stable and I'll try to demonstrate what I discussed. So we will aim for the threshold so that we have more room to float. And I won't be touching the power until I tell you I'm doing it. Yes, I really like the 310. I have it for a long time, but I haven't been flying it much. And now I'm doing it pretty often. Okay, so we're approaching on the blue line, and that is much higher per speed than on a other GA aircraft. But we are descending, so we are in a steady descent, and I'm not touching the throttle, just the yoke. Actually, let me show you the throttle here. How that works. So I'm not touching the throttle, and it will float above the runway in this power setting, because now we're entering into the ground effect, and it will basically float. So I'm pulling the yoke slightly, but it doesn't want to settle down. Now what I want to do is try to keep the same pitch, but slowly remove the power, and then it settled. It works a bit more smoother when I'm flying the real aircraft. What you can also do is you can try to reduce the power and slowly be slowing down the aircraft. But make sure you do not stall it, because it can still be too high. So what you want to do is you want to get into this ground effect. Best idea is to keep your airspeed the same, so you do not stall, and slowly remove the power. This takes the energy from the whole system, which means you will be getting lower and lower because there is less thrust, more drag, and you get the point. Worst that you can do is that you will be removing the throttle, slowing down, but you are still like meter above the runway until you stall and hit the runway. So that's not what you want to do. But if you just keep this speed at around the same, or maybe let it slowly reduce, but you can then very gently control your altitude to the throttle. Well, you can cut the throttle on the approach, and that is what you should do, but you need to have the muscle memory to do the good flare. If you don't have that muscle memory, because you cannot judge your height, you can use this trick to do that, but keep in mind it requires lots of runway because you are floating. Let's try again. But I think you get the point. It's not as much of a trick as using one mechanism that is there. And it works better in the low wing aircraft. In high wing aircraft, I'm not sure, it might not work. But still worth trying, it should work. I'll try to make it a bit quicker now, and once we land, we'll wrap up. And remember that I have my course here set to where the runway is, so I use this as reference. So I can just glimpse here and I know which way the runway is. Otherwise, I would feel very lost. So that's a very good idea to set this course and back and heading back. But course is more easy to see. So I do recommend that to set that to the runway heading. Okay. I'm not sure where I will end up in relation to the runway, and I am getting blinded by the sun, so we can fix that easily. Yeah, exactly. Once you do it a few times, you have this, you can judge the height with your eye and you have the muscle memory to do it. But if you have enemy flying for a few months, that might be difficult. So you can even do few low passes and don't even touch down, but try to judge the height. And when you are in training and you can do it well, then you can just cut the power and do the flare in one continuous motion, but that requires some muscle memory. Now we have much higher descent speed, so this floating effect won't be as prominent, and I will try to hover above the runway and slowly sink with reducing power and reduce the airspeed. So now we're floating, so I'm moving power a bit back and pitching up a bit, so I'm slowing down. I'm doing this like in a slowly but continuously. So you can see that I'm pitching up, I'm diving a bit, and I'm reducing the airspeed a bit. So, and there we go. Now, the important thing is to watch your airspeed so you do not stall. When you are pitching up and up and you are not touching the ground, then maybe you want to go around and try again. Okay. That's all as far as flying goes. But we can play the outro, and then maybe we can do the raid. So I'll give you some time. You can find someone worthy of the raid, or I'll find myself, and I will pick up the base that's over there and play maybe the same thing I played on the intro. So one sec. Okay, I'm back. Of course it's not coming through. I didn't enable this volume. Thanks for saying. Yes, I have like four indicators for the volume, so now it's up. I'm glad to love the bass. I love it too. Can play a few things, but yeah, it's pretty nice. You can play the same thing over and over, and it's great. And it's a different challenge than the guitar. You might think it's similar, but it's way different. There are different things you need to keep under control. And I love the sound. I played the guitar initially, but it didn't sound like it sounded on the records, and I was trying to detune it down and down, and it didn't work. So I was wondering what's wrong, and it turned out I was actually hearing the bass, not the guitar. So I recommend to try it. It's cool. Okay, let's wrap it up. And I'll need to find someone for the raid. If you're still here, you can actually raid someone. Any recommendations, or let me just find out? So just a sec, I'll find someone and we'll do the raid. We always have to raid, right? Let's see who's there. I think 7575 will be cool. He's a cool guy, so let's do that. Thank you for coming. Thank you for playing with me. I had a lot of fun. I hope you too. I'm glad I could teach you a thing or two, and maybe it will make your flying easier. So, yeah, I'm very happy you came too. Have a nice ride, have a nice evening, night, morning, wherever you are, and see you next time. Have a great one. Bye.